Benvinguts, bienvenidos a la tertulia del turista digital. Estamos en Valencia, en el Hotel RH Sorolla, y con un invitado de lujo. Un invitado al que hemos perseguido durante muchísimo tiempo, porque si ustedes van por la calle, seguro que habrán tropezado o habrán visto alguna pieza de este artista de street art, ahora aquí en Valencia. Lleva algunos años en España y ahora está en Valencia. Y seguro que van pues, en los alrededores del IBAM o habrán ido por el paseo del Albir, cerca de Altea, y habrán encontrado esas magníficas piezas de este artista, Will Coles, que tan amablemente hoy nos ha traído esta pieza que es Greta. Aquí. Esta pieza que es Greta. Nos lleva a Greta y al cambio climático, porque no solo es la estética, la de Will Coles, sino que también tiene un gran concepto, un concepto detrás de cada obra de arte. Thank you very much, Will. Thank you for coming. Finally, you got you here in the interview of El Turista Digital. Please, could you tell us a short story about your bio, where you born, your studies, now you are living here. Tell us.
I was born in England. I spent all my life, my school life, university life there, and as soon as I finished university I left, because England is kind of constantly declining.
My God, no,
and that was a long time ago. It was going downhill for a long time. Then I went to Australia for about 20 years in Sydney. And then years ago I came here, and my dad had a place in Cayosa, and he was selling it, so I bought it off him, and so I went from Sydney to Cayosa, which is kind of
Callosa d'en Sarrià, from Sydney to Callosa d'en Sarrià. My God.
Culture shock, I think the word.
At least sure about aparte del cultural shock, you ate very well, because you had all the vegetables around you.
The only problem was half the people in Cayosa speak Valenciano and not Castellano, so I was like...
Bueno, eso es lo que pasa con los ingleses. El inglés es idioma universal, pero tenéis que hablar. Tu hijo habla valenciano. Your son does speak Valenciano and Spanish. Will, you have a grandfather who was an artist.
Yeah.
So we guess this was a big influence on you. Tu abuelo, Norman Silman, era un artista también, un artista británico. Seguro que ha tenido una gran influencia en ti.
Yeah, he was... So I have always surrounded by sculpture, and sculpture was always acceptable. So I don't think anyone was surprised when I wanted to do art. They just thought I should get a proper job rather than do art. But he was a proper sculptor, old-fashioned, very skilled. So, I mean, he designed coins for about 25 different countries, as well as big sculptures from monumental sculptures and small works and things like that. So I got to learn quite a bit off him, like composition, things like that. Actually, one of his favorite artists he gave me a book on was his name Julio González.
Yeah.
So even then, he's got a book from 1943. And that was one of his favorites, so it's kind of strange that I ended up here.
In Valencia, because the works of Julio González, they are also in the IBAM.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think he was Valenciano originally, wasn't he? And
I would not say
definitely
that.
Spent some time here.
Yeah, but he spent...
His best works are in the IBAM.
I would not say if he's Valenciano, but IBAM, el Museo IBAM de aquí de Valencia, sí que tiene una gran obra, tiene parte de la obra de Julio González.
Has some of his best works in there. So yeah, and so yeah, I couldn't help but be a sculptor.
Yeah, obviously, was la predestinación. You were from family. Thank you very much for this, for Greta. And street art, tú te defines como un artista del street art, ¿no? Pero ¿qué significa cuando hablamos del street art? Enseguida pensamos en Banksy. Banksy ha hecho un gran favor a los artistas del street art porque ha revalorizado el street art. Pero ¿qué requisitos tiene Banksy para esto? ¿Ha tenido un gran marketing? ¿Ha sido el concepto que tiene su obra?
Oh, I think Banksy changed everything, but it's a strange thing where he turned up at the right time. Because there's another artist called Black Lorette who was from Paris, and he was doing similar stuff 10 years or more before, and it didn't click. So it was too early. So you just do the same thing 10 years later with the right promotion.
La oportunidad.
And it clicks for some reason. Sometimes you have an artist doing something 20 years too early.
Yeah.
And then someone does the same thing 20 years later and it works. So, and then Banksy just made it acceptable in a way, so people are less likely to be offended by illegal art in quite the same way. So you kind of end up with graffiti and street art, which everyone kind of puts together, but I kind of find them very separate. You'll always have graffiti on train lines, but street art sort of comes and goes. So Banksy is still kind of keeping things going. He's keeping that sort of acceptability of what we do.
Estar también ¿en qué casa estuvo? ¿En Sotheby's? Creo que fue en Sotheby's.
Sotheby's o Christie's, yeah.
O en Christie's, cuando tiene el cuadro que pasa por la máquina trituradora. Eso también es un punto para que Banksy se...
I can't remember how much that was, like millions. But yeah, then he sold one through them of these monkeys. It was like the Houses of Parliament, and it was all monkeys. And I think that sold for 12 million. I mean, yeah, it's just that people look at street art now as something that has value, financial value, rather than intellectual value.
¿Qué requisitos? Eso es lo que quería preguntarte. ¿Qué requisitos se necesita para que un trabajo sea considerado como arte, como art street? Que esté en la calle, que tenga un concepto, que tenga una estética.
I mean, for mine is very conceptual. Mine is very much, it has to have a central idea. But a lot of the murals you see nowadays are very aesthetic, and they don't necessarily have to have an idea. Generally, the more legal it is, the more, if it's council approved, then it probably doesn't have a message. Because they don't want to be confrontational or political or anything that creates awkward questions. So councils prefer vague, nice. So the big murals are generally nice. The smaller it gets, and we have stencils like Banksy or my stuff, we can work quickly. So we don't get permission, and therefore we can say whatever we like.
Por favor, ¿nos puedes explicar esta pieza?
Greta.
Yeah, es Greta.
I mean, with Greta, I was thinking, should I do a sculpture of her face or whatever? But then I was thinking that's much too... It's like the culture of celebrity. People want to see a face. I was like, nah, I'll just do a sculpture based on what she was saying, our house is on fire, and just try and, just put the icons, the world in a house on fire, make it basic. So it's like advertising when we do stuff like this, because you've got a few seconds to connect and make an impact. So sometimes you have to make it simple so that people walking past will get it without having to process, think about ideas that might be really obscure.
Ese es un inconveniente. This is something very tough because you have a few seconds. If you go to the museum, you have a plenty time as a visitor. No, I am looking this and this and that. And the painter has a lot of time for the visitor, but you have a very few seconds. If you don't catch the attention.
Yeah, if you have a mural, you get like a few minutes. People are walking from a distance, whereas when it's this, you've got a few seconds. And it's why I've done gallery and museum shows. I then did a show at Frax, and it didn't work as well because you're putting something that's meant to be outdoors, indoors. You're taking it out of its environment and putting it into something, the white cube space. It just didn't. I did a great show there, but it just didn't work. It didn't. I wasn't happy.
You were not happy. We already. Bueno, esto está tal. Estábamos preguntando eso. ¿Qué crees tú que tiene el art street? ¿Es más conceptual? Estamos viendo en estos momentos unas imágenes de un vídeo tuyo en Instagram que estás desmoldando el oso de Nietzsche. God is dead. Estamos poniéndolo, lo hemos, con tu permiso, hablamos, because we talked to you days before about getting pictures and we saw this video and we thought this is very illustrative, no? You can very practice, because then you can see how you are working. You are doing a lot of work, no? Which is the process of your work physically?
And sometimes I get an object and I know the object I want, but I can't figure out how I'm going to use it, so the object can sit there for a year or two. Other times I sculpt it, old-fashioned in clay, and then I'm working immediately and I can make the sculpture in 2 days. So sometimes it'll just sit there annoying me for years, literally, in the studio until I can come up with the right finish for it. It doesn't come together, and other times I can be done so quickly, it's great. So, and also if I'm doing gallery shows, I do something else. I do bigger works like the gold leaf things, or I copy sculpture. I did a car, I copied a Mercedes and made that for a show. I can take my time, and then make something kind of expensive, because then I can sell it. Whereas these pieces I have to make kind of cheap, because I'm doing it for free. Because like these ones, I've done about, I don't know, I've lost count, somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 concrete sculptures glued down in different countries. So that was all for free.
So, well, all the countries you visited are full of Greta.
Yeah, well, there's Greta like Greta's in Australia. There's probably more Gretas in Valencia at the moment than Australia, but yeah.
And estábamos hablando de, bueno, que en muchos países, en Europa, en el Reino Unido, en Australia, en Alemania has hecho mucho trabajo. Está expuesto tu trabajo. Muchas veces las personas que pasan tienen la tentación de llevarse tu trabajo, porque tu obra, porque es preciosa, las máquinas de escribir o las maletas, esas maletas que tienes. El Albir, el paseo del Albir que va a Altea está lleno, y es una maravilla, una delicia poder pasear por allí. Pero tú también has creado hace poco una galería online, Brutal Gallery, ¿ya? Sí. Which is the aim of the Brutal Gallery?
I was just to take artists who are friends and put them online, and give them more of a voice, rather than just using. They can use other galleries as well, so there's no exclusivity, but just have my friends who I think they work hard. They've been doing art for years. I know, and I kind of feel like anything I can do to raise their profile, to help get them out there, to other people, thousands of people to see them, it's good. So that's what I had to do for me, and that's. I don't want to get too much involved in standard gallery practice, because
it's tough work.
Well, it was just normal galleries. It becomes about money eventually.
Yeah.
And therefore, the relationship between you and the other artists becomes more distant. So I don't want to do that.
You don't know how will be Brutal Gallery online.
No.
Anyway, vamos a decir que tu trabajo y el trabajo de Brutal Gallery quiero decir que se puede adquirir, se puede comprar. Tu trabajo está en diferentes galerías y también está en Brutal Gallery y se puede comprar online. Y tú lo envías a todos los lugares del mundo, ¿no?
There's less pressure for me online than other galleries who have a physical space. So I don't have to worry as much as they do.
Una pregunta.
But I think galleries will always need a physical space. I think people going, oh, the internet is replacing everything. I still think people want to come and see the art physically before they buy. Unless they're buying a brand name, which is like an investment, so Banksy or Warhol or Basquiat. If it's not specifically an investment, they still want to see the art.
Precisamente en una de nuestras tertulias tuvimos la suerte de hablar con Iria Márquez, que es la directora de la sala teatro, bueno, que trabaja en la sala Rusafa de teatro. Y entonces una de las cosas que nos dijo es que afortunadamente hay algunas prácticas artísticas como el teatro que nunca la inteligencia artificial podrá suplirlas, podrá hacer de ellas. We had as a guest Iria Márquez, the manager of Sala Rusafa de Theater in Valencia, and she said one of the artist practice like theater, fortunately this will not be never replaced, well, I thought we thought by artificial intelligence like art, and you said the same with the galleries, no? Because you can have galleries online but never will be compared as a physical gallery where you can go and see the as a visitor and then you can buy, or no, you can buy but just have a look of the pieces of art, no?
Well, I mean, artificial intelligence is really interesting at the moment because it's only been in about the last year that it's really taken off.
NFT.
But the trouble is, if you go back two years or so ago, it was NFTs, and I had so many friends going, "This is the future." I was like, I kept reading, I was like, it doesn't make sense to me. This is not the future. This is just.
It's speculation
it's
again.
It's speculation. It's a sales tool, and it's money laundering. It's nothing to do with creation. And then a few years before that, you had 3D printing, and they said, 3D printing is going to replace everything. And it didn't. And NFTs didn't. So I don't know about AI. AI is very intense at the moment, but it steals other artists' work to create art, but then so did various other artists. Other artists have been stealing, like Roy Lichtenstein stole cartoonist art to make his art, and he never referenced them. So AI is kind of doing what other artists have done decades ago, so I don't know what's going to happen yet. I don't know if it's going to make a big difference, but it's really interesting at the moment.
Yeah, so NFT yes, and NFT no.
I mean, again, people are saying it's like cryptocurrencies, they've gone down, but they're going up. NFTs might come back, but it made no sense originally, so I don't...
It seems it depends of the money you have to wash, no? In worldwide, I mean.
Yeah.
In the worldwide. Will, have you established any relationship with traditional organizations, museums?
Yes.
No.
No. I do sometimes.
You do? Yeah.
I do, like, I mean, I've got stuff in traditional galleries like the National Gallery in Australia and a few other normal ones.
Yeah.
But they don't really like me, and a lot of them don't like street art. They still don't see us as legitimate, real art. They see us as something, I don't know, maybe a bit like NFTs. They don't really think we think we're a phase, that we're not serious art or whatever. So, you know, the one major gallery in Melbourne has street art in its collection, but the major one in Sydney has none in its collection. And it's just how they think, the person in charge thinks. So you have a whole clique of people who defend their idea of art against any incoming, and I'm one of the...
Incoming.
Yeah.
O sea, que tú piensas, pero estamos hablando de Australia, ¿no? Que intentaste en Australia tener contacto con los museos y no ha sido excesivamente fructífero. ¿Y en España y aquí en Valencia? Pero ¿cómo Valencia puede ignorar tu trabajo?
I've tried contacting like Valenciano and in Barcelona, but nothing, no reply.
No reply.
No, nothing. So, well, there was a scandal here, wasn't there? The last person who ran IVAM was promoting her son, I think.
Yeah.
So things like that. They tend to
Yeah.
promote their own. They choose some, and
Her
that's
son
theirs.
did street art? No.
No. But I think it's that thing of they promote their own. They have they pick their own and they become part of that group, and it
Yeah.
becomes its own class system. There's everyone else and them. So breaking into that, you kind of have, I think in a big way, you have to sell out on what you do to become part of their system. So what I do is essentially illegal, non-commissioned. I don't ask, and therefore I don't have to apply for anything. I don't have to ask their permission to do something anywhere. So I'm not. They see me as a bit of a threat, because I always figured in Australia I couldn't get into major galleries, so I just figured I'll just put my stuff around the gallery. I'll put my stuff everywhere else in the city.
I cannot get into. You will
Yes.
see me outside.
And plus, most people don't go to art galleries. And the honest truth is not even 10% of Valencia has probably been inside Ivam. And they'll have nice statistics, but most people don't go to art galleries. So you put it in if I put my stuff in the streets, they will see my stuff.
Es que el modelo de los museos es algo que debe repensarse. We have to rethink which is the system, because it's not a matter of hanging pieces of art. It's something, well, the society is not the same than 100 years ago, and it's not a matter to pay millions and billions of euros to somebody because has a good collection of art, and we don't know which is the origin of that collection. We don't want to know as well, but we are paying for some private collections to put if you pay me, I keep my art here in this building. So we have to rethink about things. And about this as well, we found, hemos visto en tu trabajo trabajos, esculturas sobre bustos de Franco, de Trump, Greta, incluso Kennedy, con esa alegoría y esa segunda lectura de tal, no vamos a decir el nombre, pero has encontrado, es un street art con mucho concepto, con mucha historia detrás. ¿Dónde has encontrado más censura? Where you have found more censorship to develop your artwork? In which culture or country, because it doesn't matter.
I know I have to be careful. It depends on the country. So I feel like the Nietzsche bear, the God is dead. Like, this is a very Catholic country.
Yeah.
So I have trouble putting, I think, more than I do in Germany, even though they're very Protestant. They're much more open to being challenged, whereas I'm still a bit wary. I would probably more likely to put a Franco head in the middle of Valencia than I would that. Or in Australia, they haven't had real terrorism, and so I did bomb sculptures there, and I did a bomba sculpture here, and then I remembered like all the ETA problems, and thinking, I can't really just put that down there because it's in the memory of people.
Very, very recently memory.
But I also had fun because I did a Franco one in Barcelona, and they brought an old Franco statue out on horseback as part of an outdoor art installation.
Yeah. And
he'd lost his head when he was in storage, so I put the head next to that piece. But this whole sculpture, Franco on horseback, was meant to be there for months, and the reaction from the locals, they destroyed it. They threw paint over it, they did everything, and the best bit was my head kind of added to the protest, and in a week it got destroyed so badly a rubbish truck took the sculpture away. It had been smashed. And I had the same thing in Britain. I'd put a plaque on a slave memorial. He was a slave owner, and that was the one that got thrown in Bristol, it got thrown into the harbour and destroyed about a year later. So it was just this, I've been lucky enough to take...
You touch.
I'm lucky enough to take part in these things when it's building up.
you touch the heart of the society. The point. So, which are your plans now? Because we are very happy, but we are arriving to the end of the interview.
I mean, I've got one large piece, very conceptual, to put in Albier soon.
Yeah.
Then there's small pieces I'm doing.
Please send us.
I'll keep you informed.
Wait a second. Les recuerdo que la obra de Will Cole se puede ver en Valencia, se puede ver en Alemania, quien vaya a Alemania, pero aquí en este país, en el Paseo del Albir y en todo el Albir hay obra de Will Coles, y también en Valencia, o sea que es una maravilla, y ahora nos está explicando que dentro de poco tendrá una pieza, ¿no? Can you give some hint, please?
Oro. It's gonna be gold.
Gold?
Big and gold.
My God, será grande y dorado, pero de purpurina. No vayan a pensar que es macizo de oro.
Pan de oro.
Pan de oro. Oh.
So it's very gold.
Uh-huh.
You'll be able to see it from probably space. I don't know. You'll be able to see it from like a kilometer away. So yeah.
This is good, but did you speak with any organization or just because by free?
No, it'd just be there.
Just because
Probably just for a week. So I just put it in town, leave it there for a week, and then take it away.
Well, if somebody,
If someone doesn't, if the council or the police don't get rid of it first.
if they take early. So this is your the future project, but absolutely you are decided to still living in Spain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is not doubt at
No
the moment.
doubt. Oh no, it's no doubt. It's yeah. I can't think of anything bad about it at the moment. Like everything is good. The way of life. I still get used to
The food.
Well, siestas are difficult to get used to because sometimes I just need to get something and everything's closed. But that's just me. I need to get used to it. But the food is good.
The siesta is
The house
the
is good, the
best
people are good.
invent of Spain.
But the people are good. Like, it's naturally friendly. You walk into a cafe, you walk down the road, people say hello. It's just what people do. So that's what I like. Yeah. Just the way of life. I think the way of living, and despite, for me it's strange because the old people are very much of a different era. So when I'm in Chaosa, the older generation very much, it's like looking at the past. But then the young people here they're so, I know, progressive, open-minded. There is so much happening in modern Spain and politically. So I feel at the moment that Australia is essentially, as an organized country, about 250 years old. But I feel that Spain is younger. It's difficult to explain. I feel like there is more energy here, and there is, I don't know.
We're still building the country.
Kind of weird, like, for something that's been getting built for thousands of years.
Yeah, it seems, but no. It's a young country, and the young people, they are fighting a lot. We are still building the country.
So much of Valencia is technically older than Australia. I mean, Aboriginal culture goes back 150,000 years, but the Western is younger than half the buildings in the old town. So I love it here. I put my sculptures on old buildings. I like old, so I like the patina, that not crumbling. They don't have to be falling down, but just old. It has to have texture. So I'm a sculptor. I need texture.
Pues Will Coles, muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Estamos encantadísimos. Vamos a difundir tu obra. Rogamos que el IBAM te tenga en cuenta y que entre, que se den cuenta del street art que hay aquí y del artista que tienen aquí en tal. Y te proponemos una cosa. We make a proposal to you. The next interview you will speak Spanish. Oh yes,
Possibly
oh
not
yes,
Valenciano, but
because my
definitely
English
Spanish.
is not pretty good, so but I did my best. So you have to speak Spanish.
I
the next
try to
time.
learn
O
quicker than my
Valenciano.
son. I have to learn with my son.
O Valenciano, doesn't matter, whatever.
I know.
Whatever
I know.
will be very welcome. Thank you very much, Will.
Thank you.
Has been a pleasure because you know we have been chasing you. My God, when we will have the opportunity to have Will Coles in our program to make an interview, to know that man who is touching our stomach with all his work. Thank you very much. We wish you and your family a lot of success and a lot of work and well, and in the Turista Digital you have your home in Spanish, o en Spanish o en Valenciano, ¿ok?
Okay.
Muchísimas gracias a ustedes también, ha sido un placer, como habrán visto, tener aquí a Will Coles. Deseamos que las instituciones se repiensen un poco, porque esto de obviar el street art y tener un artista de este calado, de esta importancia como Will Coles, el nieto de Norman Silman, que ha hecho, que hizo el molde de las no sé cuántas monedas para 40 países, ¿no? Norman, at least 40 countries, your grandfather.
Yeah.
O sea que no solo tiene una historia familiar, sino que él es un gran artista. Y les agradecemos muchísimo su atención y volvemos bueno, en otra entrevista. Pero la próxima con Will Coles será él hablando o valenciano o hablando castellano. Seguro que sí. Hasta la próxima.